Good evening and welcome into Episode 7 of the Rich Petroski Show. Happy to be joined, as always, by the St. Joseph Chargers head football coach, Rich Petroski. I'm Connor Klingen, and thank you for joining us. We are live here from St. Joseph High School at the team dinner, as always, here on Arena Sportsnet Chicago and Arena Sportsnet. As always, we'd like to remind you that tonight's show is brought to you by Meatheads in Elmhurst, a place you can enjoy with your whole family from the moment you walk into the door until the moment you leave. Meatheads at 143 North York Street in Elmhurst. Coach, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
Glad to be back with you this week. Obviously coming off a bit of a tough loss, but definitely excited for this next game, right?
It was a tough loss, but at the end of the day, it was we were telling the kids we really shot ourselves in the foot. We were in the red zone enough times that we should have scored, and you know what I mean. And our defense played outstanding. We gave them too much time on the field, so we just have to make sure that we limit their time on the field this week. So.
Well, we'll hit a little bit more on the game last week later on in the show, but right now we've got Anthony Brown, one of the players on the team, joining us. He plays center and also defensive tackle and defensive end. Anthony, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. And as Coach said, you've got so many roles on this team, playing offense and defense. Do you ever get tired out there?
A little bit, but, you know, coaches are able to have us conditioned and stuff, so, you know, you get used to it.
And especially now with it being really hot, you guys actually don't have school tomorrow because of the heat that came on, and you're going to have to play in it tomorrow night.
Yeah, we're going to have to play through it, but I think we can stick through it.
Well, luckily it is a night game, not having to play at 2 in the afternoon or something like that. But, Anthony, you play center, and that can be really such a difficult position. How do you manage practicing snapping and doing it so well?
Well, during the summer, Coach Pia had told me that I was going to have to play center this year. And, you know, during summer I got back at it playing center. And now that through all the practices we've gone through, it helps me out during game time, so it doesn't bother me as much anymore.
And you had played it in JV as well, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And which is your favorite to play? Is it offense or defense?
Honestly, I like playing both, honestly, because, you know, I like staying on the field a lot. But if I had to pick one, it had to be defense because for me, playing ever since I was, like, little, I've always liked playing defense. I've always liked, you know, like hitting the quarterback, like hitting the running back a lot.
Yeah, and you guys have been playing really well on defense, 2 straight shutouts, and then you held Chicago Hope, who scored 70 against the state champs last year in 2A, to just 21 points. What's kind of been the key to your guys' success on the defensive side this season?
The key for us for defense was basically just 3 and out. We always want to have a 3 and out, at least give our offense a chance to score it. For us, we believe if we can hold the offense to 0 points, we believe that we can win that game.
And do you think playing both sides of the ball it helps you on the other side as you're playing offense? You kind of learn things about how to play defense and vice versa?
Honestly, with playing both, yeah, it does help me a lot. With playing both, I can see like tendencies of what an offensive lineman would be like, and I can use that to exploit their offensive lineman. And when I'm on defense, it helps me that I know what they're doing. And then when I get back on offense, since I play both, I can see, like, okay, what would I do if I was the defensive lineman at that point?
Anthony, you're just a junior, so you've been here in this program for 3 years, but how much have you seen it change in that time that you've been here at St. Joe's?
Just from the year that Coach Petroski came in, I saw that how much the atmosphere in the school had changed a lot. And then once he stepped on the field, and practice was a lot different. Everything that he came in, he had a mindset, and it just changed our mindset and everything about it. So now that he's here, we're trying to keep that train going. We're trying to make sure that it doesn't break and we don't go back to the old St. Joe's. Yeah,
and you mentioned kind of the atmosphere in the school. Do you feel like you get noticed more as a football player than you used to, maybe as a freshman back here?
Back then, football wasn't something that was talked about here. Since Coach Petroski got here and since the seasons we've had, it's always like once the football season, beginning of school year football season's here, everybody's on top of it.
You guys obviously had a tough loss last Friday, but a Chicago Catholic League game. How much fun is it to play in that league with the challenge that it presents?
I always have fun playing the Chicago Catholic League. I feel like it's one of the toughest conference in Illinois, in my opinion. So always having fun playing against like basically the best competition out here.
And last week it was a home game against Chicago Hope. Tomorrow night at St. Ignatius, does that kind of pump you guys up to be able to take that road trip downtown?
Yeah, I think it will pump us up. I believe that when we have away games, we love, keeping the other team's crowd silent.
And last year, it was a 20-14 loss for you guys against St. Ignatius at home. Do you feel a little bit of the revenge factor after what happened last season?
Yeah, we want to get them this one. We need this game. We feel like that we owe them the win that we should get tomorrow.
And especially with them being a bigger school, you guys kind of have that attitude that you're going to go in aggressively, right, and stand up to that challenge.
Yeah, we feel like that being the smaller school, we can't start out slow. We feel like we have to give out the first punch. We got the first punch, we get it rolling, we can be anybody.
And Anthony, your family's really involved in the program as well, right?
Yes, sir.
And so it's your sister is a manager, correct?
Yeah, my sister's the manager of the team. She helps, so I get to see her a lot. She gets to see how I am on the field. My dad is able to help out. He's always there, seeing what the team could need. Both my parents are out there to see, like, with the dinner, they set it up and everything.
Oh, it's really great that your family helps out, and you do a great job on the field. Anthony, thank you so much for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll go back now to Coach Petroski.
Okay.
And, Coach, thanks for bringing Anthony onto the program, another great young man to come on the show. But I asked Anthony about it. How are you guys handling this heat that's been coming through lately?
Hey, actually, you want to be honest with you, we went full pads today, just because our defensive coordinator, Coach Brown, like I always do, he came in and said that hey, it's going to be hot tomorrow, so we better get used to it and we better get ready to go because who knows what the temperature is going to be like. So we have to stay on top of the heat, make sure we're hydrated, things like that, and. Tony Brown is actually alumni from here. Tony, Anthony's dad, is actually alumni from here. He graduated from Joe's in, I think, 68 or 69. So I think that's a big reason why he's always back here helping us because he loves the school.
And that's great. And we've talked about it earlier. Having the alumni come back just continues to keep that train rolling.
It does. And, I was told this past weekend, 2 weekends ago, that the 1992 is having their alumni get-together next weekend, so they invited me to it, and I'll be more than happy to go up there and, share our stories and hear their stories and things like that because I think it's going to be a great transition because I'm going to bring some of the kids with us so that way they can hear what it was like to play here. We do have alumni on the staff, but listening to these guys that played the game out there, that played on this field that's back here behind the school and everything like that, it's second to none compared to what we do, and we go to Elmhurst and things like that. So,
yeah, it's really changed so much. I didn't really have a chance to see it, but just from everything I've heard, it's been a huge transition, not even just from then, but as Anthony was saying, in the past few years.
Yeah, it's a real big change, you know what I mean? And like I told them, like I said on my first episode, it was more about changing an attitude here. It was an attitude change here. Today we were, Meatheads was actually here today. They were out on the field. Cam Meredith was here. So Cam Meredith got to address them and talk to them a little bit, tell them how, hey, you never know when your last play is going to be. And, you know what I mean, it's great that he was able to be here to tell them that because me and Coach Brown tell him that all the time. He's a prime example of that, you know what I mean, battling the knee injury that he has and everything like that. And Cam's a proud alumni. He was happy to be out here talking to us and things like that. And it was just great to have him out here. Having Meatheads out here actually too. All their upper people were here, so I got to speak with them again, and you know what I mean, it's been a great relationship with them too. So I can't wait to see how everything progresses and things like that.
Well, how cool is that to have an alum on the Chicago Bears? Obviously a tough situation for him with the injury, but to come back here and speak, there's not many schools in the area that have that luxury.
No, not at all. And actually, there's a player on the Minnesota Vikings, Jarrell Johnson. He's from here also. He went here his first 3 years and then transferred to Montini. So, you know what I mean, that's two ex-Chargers that are in the NFL as we speak. So that says a lot that you don't really see a lot, but, you know what I mean, you hear more about Evan Turner, the guys that are playing in the NBA right now because of Coach Ping, but we have the football players too.
Yeah, and that can be inspiration to your current players as well, that you should never give up and you can make it everywhere.
Exactly. So,
Well, I talked to Anthony a little bit about how you guys don't have school tomorrow just because of the heat situation. So does it kind of turn into almost feel like playing a Saturday game because you don't have school?
It's definitely going to. We're going to do our Saturday routine where they'll get here because we're leaving on the bus at like 5 or 4:45 to get over there by 5. You know what I mean? Even though it's going to take a little longer than 15 minutes. But that way now we're getting there. They got a locker room set up for us already, so that way we can go in the locker room. But, yeah, we're getting here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, even though no school tomorrow. We're going to sit in an air conditioning. We have a room that's air conditioning, so we're going to sit in that room. They're going to basically go to sleep in the room for a little while, watch film. We're going to have somebody bring them video games in there, and just for them to be off their feet, actually be together. You know what I mean? The worst thing is for them getting up here tomorrow. And once we get past that, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, just make sure they're relaxed before the game. That sounds like a great way to prepare.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And the good thing about it is that we won't be thinking football when we get here at 2 o'clock. You know what I mean? It will start kicking in right when we start because we'll stay in here for about an hour and a half, and then we'll go over to the other building to start getting ready. We'll pregame over there. We'll walk through stuff over there, and like I said, it's just going to be a regular if we were playing on a Saturday. So there's no difference to us. So.
At this time, we'd like to remind you tonight's episode of the Rich Petroski Show is also brought to you by CleaverSupplements.com. Cleaver Supplements for when genetics are not enough. And now we'll do a quick review of last Friday's game against Chicago Hope. Coach, with that being your first CCL Red game, could you see kind of the increase in intensity on the field?
Oh, yeah. Me getting that penalty really increased a lot of things. But, yeah, you know what I mean? The thing about it is we knew going in that what they were going to do. We knew exactly how they were going to feel. Actually, I think their coach listened to the show because he was saying how we're just going to knock them out of the playoffs when we beat them and stuff like that. So somehow they're listening to what we're saying and they're using it as bulletin board stuff and things like that. But you know, it all comes down to our mentality, and the kids stayed tough, even though we had so many penalties. The kids stayed tough, and that was the biggest thing that they could have did in that situation.
Well, for Chicago Hope, they had kind of a tough break near the beginning of the game. Their starting quarterback leads them on a drive, and then he goes down with an injury, and he was a dual-threat guy. I mean, he was really running the football. How tough was he to play against?
He was fairly tough, but the thing about it is he's only a sophomore, so they still got him for 2 more years. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup again next year. But at the same token, you know what I mean? If you look at it, Caleb's a dual threat too. So they never seen Caleb run, but you know what I mean? He showed flashes of it, but as you go along and things like that, we don't worry about that because we were more worried about him throwing the ball because those receivers were pretty quick kids. They wanted a track meet, and that's what they tried to get out of it, and we slowed the pace down big time against them, and that's why they only scored 21 points.
And you mentioned Caleb's ability to run the ball. He had some really big runs. How impressed were you with his ability to kind of, when he saw the receivers were covered, find those running lanes and pick up first downs?
I was very impressed. Actually, my quarterback coach called it upstairs. He told him we gave Caleb headsets, and we told him, hey, if you don't see anybody in front of you, go. If you don't see anybody in front of you, go. If you don't see anybody in front of you, go. And that's basically what we kept telling him and telling him and telling him and telling him and telling him. And it finally clicked into him that, hey, this is what I have to do. So.
And you guys were able to move the ball, but as you said, some trouble in the red zone, and you're trailing 14-0 at halftime. What was your message to the team in the locker room at that point?
We just have to come out with a chip on our shoulder. That's the biggest thing that we have to do every week because everybody says we're the same St. Joe's. It doesn't matter what we're wearing. Doesn't matter what we look like. It's St. Joe's, and that's the way everybody looks at us. Everybody looks at us as that farm team per se. And, you know what I mean, I go on to Edgy Tim's website and everything like that, and, you know what I mean, they're not giving us any chance this week, and they didn't give us any chance last week. And, you know what I mean, if we come mentally prepared, there's no way that's going to stop us but ourselves.
And at this time, we'd like to remind you that tonight's show is brought to you by Meatheads, the official sponsor of St. Joseph Chargers football programming. We provide a full-service, made-to-order dining experience serving high-quality, fresh, never-frozen ingredients, including 100% Angus beef hamburgers, hand-breaded chicken tenders, and chicken sandwiches, as well as real Idaho potatoes, freshly cut every day. Meatheads at 143 North York Street in Elmhurst. Well, Coach, in the first half of this game and the second half, penalties were a problem for you guys, especially that encroachment offsides. Was there something that Chicago Hope did to kind of pull you guys offsides like that?
No, Coach Brown does that. We even practice it today. It's something that we constantly practice because that one day that we do get it right on the snap, somebody it's going to be bad. It's going to be really
trouble.
Bad. Yeah, but here's the thing, you know what I mean? Everybody does the same thing in our conference down at the red zone. Nobody does anything different. So we just wanted, you know what I mean? We actually, if you really look at the film, we only probably jumped off probably the 2 times Antonio jumped off. Other than that, we actually, right when the ball was snapped, we were there. And the refs didn't realize that we were jumping on the snap, not on just jumping. So, you know what I mean? The ball was moving. The ball moves. We're allowed to move. And that's the biggest thing with that. But, you know what I mean? The refs wanted to call it the way they wanted to call it. And that's why I had to blow up at the beginning of the game. Because it's like you're calling something that should have never been called because you can see in film clearly as day because we have huddle sideline. So my coach up in the box was like, we're moving exactly the same time the ball's moving. So how can you penalize somebody for moving when the ball's moving? So
tough angle for me to see in the press box too. So I couldn't really tell, but certainly if you've got that sideline and that ability to see that you're doing it at the right time.
Yeah, and you know what I mean?
And
I joke with the referees all the time. I'm like, I'll show you a replay. And they're like, Coach, we can't do that. I go, I don't care. I'll show it to you anyways. And you know what I mean? And that's my thing that they have to understand that at the end of the day, they want to throw flags and everything like that. And you know what I mean? I understand there's flags and you know what I mean? There's penalties in this game, but when we're down at the goal line by the half-inch yard line, let them play football. And at the end of the day, that's all my kids were trying to do there was trying to play football. And they were holding them back. And, you know what I mean, at the end of the day, the ref got mad. But at the same token, if he just let them play, it would have become a completely different ball game. Because, to be honest with you, we stopped them 3 times at the end zone down there.
Right.
So that's the thing I'm saying. We stopped them 3 times down there. And now you want to start calling encroachment on us? You know what I mean? And that's the same thing I told the refs. I'm like, we stopped them 3 times. And finally on 4th down, you're going to start calling penalty on us. And the thing about it is that they're only moving a half an inch because there's nowhere to move. So why even throw that flag? Let them play. That's why I kept telling the white hat, but he wasn't listening to me. You know what I mean? And he's like, we're trying to make a mockery out of the game and everything like that. I'm like, we're not trying to do anything like that. We're just trying to play football the way football's supposed to be played, and that's how you play football.
Yeah, it's, in my opinion, a smart play.
Exactly.
Try to get on the line as soon as possible.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's what we did. We were on the line, ready to go, and it just so happened that we timed the snap perfectly, the ball moving, and we went with it.
Well, then another situation where at least I was confused in terms of a flag. You have a pass interference in the red zone. You guys are on offense, and now they've changed the rule because I had thought it was an automatic first down. Here I am on the air blowing up at the officials. And then you told me tonight that they've changed the rule, so it's now not an automatic first down.
They changed it about 3 years ago that any holding penalty, being pass interference or any kind of pass interference that would result in 15 yards, it's not an automatic first down unless it passes the chains. So we were 2nd and goal, so we just replayed the down. And which was to our dismay, we thought we had a first down, and that's why and actually on that play, we actually ran 5 downs that play. I looked at it like 4 or 5 times. We actually ran 5 downs on that play and still couldn't score. So I don't know what to say about that, but we still couldn't score.
Well, it's kind of like that. I think it was Missouri back in the day that had that 5th down game.
Yeah.
But definitely, as you said, the officials might have had a bit of an impact, but you said it earlier, you guys made a few mistakes, didn't play maybe as well as you wanted to in that game.
Well, it wasn't that we didn't play as well as we wanted to. We played outstanding defensively. It was offensively that we weren't getting the clicks when we needed them. We weren't going the pace we wanted to go. Today we actually slowed our pace down. This week we actually slowed our pace down a little bit, just so that way we could fix the corrective stuff that we needed to fix this week. So,
well, as you said, an outstanding defensive performance. I brought it up to Anthony. You guys held them to 21 points. They scored 70 against the state champion last year. Obviously a different team a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's a really high-octane offense that you guys contained.
Well, they were averaging 44 points coming into the game. So that just tells you how good our defense really is. If they're averaging 44 points a game, we come in and hold them to 21. And I don't care what anybody says. I tell everybody we only lost 7-0 into that game because of the simple fact that twice they called us for encroachment, and that's the only reason they scored. Those other 2 touchdowns. If they don't call it encroachment, we stop them on 4 downs, and that's the game 7-0.
And then you're just a one-possession game, and
Yeah.
then you have just as good a chance as them to take it away. It looked like you guys maybe had some injuries in this game. How's everybody doing health-wise?
We're doing great. Everybody's cleared to play. There's nobody out. So we have a full team coming in, and we actually what we wanted to do this week is that we wanted a full team. So we're actually not even playing a JV game this week. So I have all my JV starters that are ready to start on varsity too this week. So we're coming in with a 36-man roster this week.
And how does that change things for this St. Ignatius game, being able to have that depth of the JV players coming up?
It's going to be tremendous because at any given time we can put any of our players in there, and we can come back and we can do what we have to do and everything like that. And I'm excited because, you know what I mean, we owed them big time for the game last year. So.
Well, among those JV players that you're going to be bringing up for the varsity, who stands out to you as somebody that could have a big impact tomorrow night?
Well, you can see him walking over this way right there. Tony Floynoid over there. He's only a freshman. Actually, all 3 of them right there are all freshmen. Angel Camacho and Alfonso Adams is all. Those 3 are linemen right there, and they're all freshmen. But I have another freshman running back, Javante Bright, that. Oh my God! When you see him run, you think you saw some of our best runners. You haven't seen anything yet until you see this so smooth, so easy running and everything like that. It's just amazing to watch them run.
Well, I have seen him in some of the JV games.
Yeah,
He is very impressive out there.
Yeah.
Hey, Charger fans, don't forget to stop by Meatheads at 143 North York Street in Elmhurst and enjoy our fast casual family restaurant that serves fresh experiences. Well, let's move on now to preview this CCL cross-division showdown with St. Ignatius tomorrow night. Coach, earlier in the year, you guys lost to Elmwood Park. The next week, you put together your best performance, a 69-0 win at South Beloit. Certainly a much tougher opponent in St. Ignatius. But could you see that sense of urgency after that first loss, and do you see it coming back now after the second loss?
Oh, yeah. Actually, it's big because it's kind of funny because we lose to Elmwood Park, and then we play a wing T offense in South Beloit, and then we lose to Hope, and we come back to play a wing T offense in St. Ignatius. We've been ready for it since, since the beginning of the season. So and like I said before, we owe them big time. And that's all that's been on their minds is that we have payback for them. They stole that game from us last year, and we're going to make sure they're not going to steal another game from us this year.
And definitely a tone down in pace, as you said, going from that wide open offense of Chicago Hope to the wing T with St. Ignatius.
Yeah, it was huge, and the thing about it is that Ignatius isn't the same Ignatius. I've been telling people this all week. They're not the same Ignatius that would run up and get down in the three-point stance and just punch you in the mouth. They're a little bit more finesse now. Their head coach actually left before the season started, so they have actually a new head coach there. But he's been the offensive coordinator for the last 2 years there, so he knows the system and things like that. But at the same token, we're ready. We want to punch them in the mouth. There's nothing more we want to do than punch them in the mouth because they deserve it. After
last year's 20-14 game that St. Ignatius won at your place, this team is 3-1, St. Ignatius, and before that loss to Providence Catholic, they had shut out their first 3 opponents. How big of a challenge will this be for your offense?
That's kind of a funny question because watching them on film and things like that, and you could tell that the talent that they played against, they're coming up against a team.
So, Coach, we already talked about him a little bit, but in scouting St. Ignatius, what stood out to you the most?
Their quarterback is a senior. That's the same kid we played last year. So we know his tendencies and things like that. Their whole backfield's all brand new, though. They're all sophomores and juniors. So they're all from the JV team, which our JV team beat them last year. So, you know what I mean? So the JV knows what it's like to beat Ignatius already, and that's what we're carrying over to this year, that we'll make sure that we continue that streak against them.
And, Coach, I always give you this one. It's a real softball, but just how excited are your guys for this game tomorrow night?
I don't know. How excited are you guys for tomorrow night?
The Chargers are definitely ready to go down to St. Ignatius, and that'll do it for this week. Coach, any final thoughts?
You know what I mean? This is a big game for us. I told them today when we were breaking down that this is the game that starts our train rolling tonight, and it all starts tomorrow